Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another story for you. This one is from AITA and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for No Longer Updating My Ex on Our Child's School Stuff? I split up with my ex almost 2 years ago. My child started school the same year. My ex was never too involved in our child's educational needs, even when she was a toddler. I handled it all myself. My child's school offers multiple apps and websites. You can be up to date with everything without ever having to contact anyone. That's an important note. I just asked my ex repeatedly to get at least the main apps so that I don't have to keep reminding him of important dates and of our child's progress. He didn't care. Okay, then we'll red flag this. Just a few examples. Whenever I asked to make a plan for any school break, he'd ask when the school break is. I sent him links to the school website, but he couldn't even be bothered to save a screenshot or make a note of the dates, etc., so he'd ask again the next time around too. He couldn't be bothered to update his phone number in the school records, so the school office couldn't contact him during emergency. You get an extra red flag just for that one. I informed him about all the parent-teacher meetings. He said he couldn't make it, and that it made sense for me to go because he didn't know the teachers. It's not about knowing the teachers, man. Even in September, when neither of us knew the new teachers. Side note, he doesn't work, I do, so I thought it was logical to have him attend, so I wouldn't have to take time off work to do so. And another round of red flags. I'd send him any important dates, school plays, any shows, sports events, etc. He'd pick and choose the ones not involving much interaction. Reading together on the World Book Day was a no-go, but watching the kids race was okay, etc. Boy, he's just winning, huh? I would even invite him to the events organized by any clubs my kid is in, clubs I organized and paid for myself, but he always had an excuse unless the events fell on his weekends. Even then, he'd sometimes ask me to swap the weekends. I accepted it for over a year for the sake of peace. I wanted my kid to see her dad support her achievements too. But it's been so long and I'm just tired of having to both handle the responsibility and remember to give him updates about it. I also felt like I was trying to make him involved when he clearly wasn't interested. Here, second that statement. So last autumn, I announced to him that it was on him to stay up to date with our child's school stuff. I gave him 2 weeks to get everything sorted. I even listed all the important apps and websites so he wouldn't miss anything. The only one I didn't share was a payment portal, as I knew he wouldn't care about that one. Subtle burn. I promised to still share any information passed via written notes, letters, etc., as obviously he would not have access to those otherwise. I followed through with it. It took him 2 months to realize what's happened, and now he's furious, saying that I'm using the child against him. The child. Which child? Like him or your actual child? You're using his child, his childish behavior, like him as the child, against him, sure, but not your actual child. He got his family involved, and now they're all bombarding me with texts saying that I'm the asshole for doing it to him and our child. His mother also pointed out that she had done everything herself as well and didn't involve her husband in the school stuff, so she knows it's not that hard, and I'm being dramatic. Am I the astronaut? I'm gonna have to try real hard to censor myself as I speak, because I really want to drop some F-bombs here. As much as you want him to not be a deadbeat, he's a deadbeat. I'm sorry. I know you want him to be involved and to be a good dad for your child's sake, but he chooses not to be. You can lead a horse to water, right? You've made it as easy as possible for him, and even when you decided to take that extra workload off of your shoulders, because it was extra work to make it easier for him, or as easy as possible, you decided to take that work off of your shoulders. He didn't even realize what was happening for 2 months. After you told him what was happening, he didn't even realize. And now he's furious. Why? Because he doesn't have the he's like, man, I haven't declined an invite in a hot minute. I haven't said no, I won't be there for my kids thing. Or you know what? I haven't had a reason to swap weekends in a while. What's going on? Oh yeah, I'm not getting those updates anymore. To all those things that I didn't attend, didn't want to be a part of. Like what? It's not on you. Now him running over to his mommy and his family and crying about it really confuses me. Like, what does he benefit there? He just wants the pity from everybody. And actually, yeah, okay, that's exactly what it is. Because a lot of parents, when you've got split parent kind of households, a lot of parents will pull this shit where they want to act like they're involved to everybody else. They don't actually want to be involved. They don't want the work. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want the stress. They don't want to actually be involved, but they want the rest of the world to think that they really are. So when they've got some kind of ammo that justifies their lack of involvement, and I'm not involved in my kid's life as much because this person did this to me. This person puts up these barriers. This person, I'm a victim. They'll play that fiddle all they want, as much as they can get their hands on it, right? And that's what he's doing here. It's garbage. She's a foot away, so let's get some tater thoughts, shall we? By the way, I do have some tater thought designs in progress. I sent a couple to Tater Thunder herself today, and she said she loved them both. So we just have to narrow them down and then animate them and get them as part of the show. But let's bring her up. Tater Thunder wielding her Diet Coke poster of a sweatshirt.
I've worn it before.
I know. It's amazing.
I think we learned everything we need to learn about this story in the last paragraph and about why this guy is the way he is. His mom getting involved and saying what she said really paints the picture of why this guy doesn't feel like he has to prioritize anything, because it sounds like his dad never prioritized anything because his mother handled it all, controlled it all, and never included them. Guess what, Mama? Times change. It's different now. I know it's wild, but dads are actually expected to parent their children nowadays. Kudos to the ones that were already doing it, but these are the current set of expectations. So get on board and quit sending. I would block this woman 100%. She wouldn't have any contact with me whatsoever.
His mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were doing her any favors with letting her see grandchild, like sending this stuff to you would be a firm decision to not do mother-in-law any favors, in my opinion, because there's no telling what she's saying behind your back if she's going to say this kind of stuff to you and talking about child's dad. So, yeah. OP, not the asshole. You did nothing wrong. You actually went above and beyond, and then realized, I don't have to do that because this is a grown-ass man who can do his own job. And you gave him ample time to get his affairs in order, and he chose not to do it. That's on him. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Bravo to you.
Hey there, it's Dusty with yet another story for you. This one is, Am I the Astronaut for Expecting Money from My Boyfriend's Family? Well, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound great. For context, I, 18 female, have been with my boyfriend, 17 male, for 4 years. At the beginning of our relationship, we would split our time equally between both his house and my house so that we could be with each other's families and get to know them better. Since I have come to know my boyfriend's mom, she has always treated me as other. My grades weren't as good as her son's. That's not good. I don't have as great of a work ethic as him. Terrible influence. My hobbies and lifestyle differed to theirs. How strange. You can probably get the gist here. This sparked a tense environment whenever I came around for dinner, so I stopped seeing her. My boyfriend also noticed this and decided to spend most of his time at my house, as he had gotten into disagreements with her about it. Fast forward a couple of years and the situation is exactly the same. We rarely see my boyfriend's family, and my boyfriend is considered a third child to parents now. The issue is that my boyfriend's family has gradually stopped paying for him. We've taken him on a few holidays over the last couple of years and have gone on many days out, not to mention feeding him most nights too. My mom has always said that my boyfriend is a delight and he is welcome to stay here anytime he likes, but she would appreciate it if his family contributed to the cost of everything that we do for him. We are fairly well-off family, but looking at our finances, my parents have spent approximately £5,500 more on my boyfriend than my boyfriend's family have spent on me. How exactly is this being tracked? Well, look here. If you look here, you've exceeded the boyfriend budget this month. Most recently, my parents booked a few concerts for me and my boyfriend to attend this year. The combined cost of these concerts for my boyfriend's tickets alone added up to £300. When we brought this up to my boyfriend's family and asked if they would pay for him, they got angry and called us unreasonable. My mom said to them that she doesn't expect repayment right away, just within the next few months. This happened 5 months ago, and my boyfriend's parents haven't mentioned it since. Fast forward again to last week, we booked our family holiday for the year, Italy. My boyfriend has previously told his family that we were planning on going, and they were nothing but positive. We discussed the dates and flights with them, and it seemed to be going well. However, when my family reached out and informed them of the cost of bringing my boyfriend, they flipped out again. This is an expensive holiday and my boyfriend's family refuses to pay, let alone the holidays from previous years and the outstanding concert money. We're at a standstill and aren't sure what to do. I think that my boyfriend's parents should be offering my family money each week to cover him. Not much, only around 30 to 40 pounds, but they never have. To make matters more complicated, my boyfriend has a younger sister who his parents spoil all the time. In my opinion, parents should split their costs equally between their children, but that is not the situation here.
What in the Moira Rose is happening in this story?
There's so many wrong things happening. That's the end.
That's all we get.
That's the end of the story. That's all we get. Okay, so there's a lot happening here. I want to try to unpack it just one little peanut at a time. Okay, his mom judging you to the point where you feel so uncomfortable you can't be around her. Yes, that's not good. However, he chose to eat dinner at your house. Like, he chose to go to concerts with you. He chose these things. You guys planned these things and included him. And in most cases, in all but Italy, which is the most recent case here, in all of these cases, you planned something, you included him in it, you did it, and then you asked them for money, which you cannot do. You cannot do an extracurricular and afterward tell somebody that they owe you money for it without discussing it ahead of time, right? That's the kind of thing that you have to get them to agree to ahead of time. Otherwise, it's just a nice thing that you did. And you asking for money for a nice thing that you did afterwards makes it not as nice of a thing. You see where I'm going with this? The Italy thing, you're talking about it ahead of time, right? Here's the problem. You didn't get their input on it. You didn't get their approval on it. You didn't bring the money up in the beginning. You brought it up after hyping this thing up to them and telling them that you were planning on including him, and then talked about the money last. There is, this is more business focused here, but the saying is, if the concern is money, talk about it first. If budget is not a concern, talk about it last. In this case, you've taken the reverse approach, and where it is a concern, have talked about it last, sometimes even after the fact, instead of doing it up front. This is one of those things where you have to eat your frog on it. Them spending more or doting on his sister more, which there may be an age difference that accounts for this too, because then you would need to know what they've spent historically on their son for all of his life, and I'm sure you don't have that accounting handy. Them at least creating the perception that they dote on her more or support her more than they do him. Yeah, that's not good either. But again, like, now you're jumping into somebody else's finances and trying to tell them how to parent, even though you're 18 years old. Your parents starting this whole accounting thing and like tracking things. And then I'm sure that's where the thought got into your head too, about how parents should be splitting their costs 50-50 between kids, and saying that that's how they should do those things too. It's fine that you have those beliefs. You don't get to impose those beliefs on other people. But it sounds like the way that she shit on you, the way that they we'll just go ahead and say dote on the sister and don't support the son at all. But again, he's choosing not to be there. So it's an ESH. It's an ESH. I'm going to ESH. Had her drop the 10 and said, OP, you need to pay for all the expenses my mom did for your son. I beg your finest pardon. My late mom always treated us out for food and never once asked to be paid back. Yeah, it's not a nice thing when you ask for money for it afterwards. It's like assuming the sale. And if you don't have any kind of agreement ahead of time about being compensated for the cost that you're incurring, you don't get made whole from that. But 18, yeah, he should pay for himself. Yeah, I mean, they've been dating for 4 years, so this has been an ongoing thing since they were, 13 and 14, right? And we don't know if he has a job or not. Probably should. I think there's going to be a lot of culture shock for both of them when they get out there. However, I don't think budgeting will be a problem. Budgeting is the one strong suit that they have. They will be well accounted for as they start living an independent life here. Maybe too well accounted for. Daryl, I saw this week that you spent $51 at the gas station and your budget was only $49. Hey there, it's Dusty with another story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for giving crappy Christmas gifts and ruining my marriage? Again, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound great. Throwaway account for anonymity. I, 31 female, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, male 33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. Soon-to-be ex insisted that they're just putting up a tough exterior and they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and brought a cake that I had made because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back.
What the hell? You don't do that to cake.
Imagine doing that, like walking in and handing somebody a cake and they just put it in the trash right in front of you. I'd go Ross, 100%. My cake! My cake! When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started, and she claimed she grabbed the plate. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor. So of course it had to be thrown away. Ah!
What?
So, okay. Listen, lady. No one throws away cake, and if you're gonna do it, own it. Don't lie about it. My sister-in-law confirmed that was what happened. Oh boy, cool. So she's right in it. My soon-to-be ex owned his own business and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course, they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own trying to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so we closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested that we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment, we did. Oh no, you moved closer to these people? We know what's coming, so I'm throwing more red flags. He only wanted to work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. As with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see that I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my soon-to-be ex only. Every holiday was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet. So I just stopped talking when I visited. You can't even speak. In early December, they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later, my soon-to-be ex said his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe.
Oh my God.
I replied, fine, we'll do our own thing instead. My soon-to-be ex sheepishly looked away and said he was still going to go.
Rosa.
Look, baby. I know that we're married, and I know that you drained your personal savings trying to save my business as it was going down the drain. But I'm gonna straight up abandon you now because I love my mama more. I'm gonna go ahead and give this. Brozo. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for father-in-law, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for mother-in-law, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for sister-in-law. Yes! The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for brother-in-law and his wife's chihuahua. Too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband came home from Christmas lunch telling me I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why would he think that I would buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. Served divorce papers last week. Remembered how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenup. Soon-to-be ex is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts, or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Hey yo! Some of my friends and family are on my side and proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So, am I the astronaut?
Inty.
Hell no! You know what? The balls of somebody to be like, you're being really petty and that's not really like you. Bish, I'm sorry. If you had lived through what I just lived through, then you would have the right to tell me that. But you haven't. You haven't. You are basing this action on the person you know me to be for all of my years prior. Not for the past 2 years where I have been put through actual cake dumping, family on mute, mother-in-law from hell. You don't get to call me petty. You want to hear petty? Let me tell you about petty. And then tell her all about the mother-in-law. Not just mother-in-law, the whole friggin' family. What is... At the very minimum, they should have treated you with respect like a human freaking being. And add on to that, the fact that you drained your savings trying to rescue his business as well should have got you some respect from mama for trying to help her son, if for no other reason, to help her bebe. The person who's helping her bebe. And the fact that this brozo still expected you to get all the gifts for his family to a thing that you were uninvited from and that he was still going to just says everything you need to know about this jabroni. He doesn't deserve you. He never did. So I'm sorry that you wasted all of this time on this piece of shit, but you'll be stronger from this, right? At least that's what they say. I don't. Tater, come on up. Let's talk about this for a second. Any way that this could lead to like a positive strengthening experience for OP? Can she grow from this? Is there any way that this turns around into a good thing?
I think she already turned it into a good thing with her petty revenge. This could have been a petty revenge story. I love the way that I love what she did. I love everything about it. This one really makes me mad. Like treating somebody that way, just throwing the cake in the trash, like that was enough for me. I would never have gone back, especially the way that they, like the sister-in-law confirming what mother-in-law was saying when it clearly wasn't true. Like I didn't have walking into breath. This is like walking into fire every time you walked into this house, and then for them to not speak to you, and then for your husband to not have your back, and then no, bravo for the shampoo, bravo for the rawhide that no dog can use. Bravo. I love it. I love oh yeah, the crappy perfume from the dollar store. You know that if she smelled it, that smells in her nose all day. Very good job. I'm impressed.
I might have, they have, you probably order them on Amazon. I know they have them during 4th of July around here in the fireworks tent. They have those little glass capsules of like fart juice.
Oh no. Yeah.
I would try to find like some industrial sized container for that and then get a bunch of empty, really bougie perfume bottles for like a brand that they would think smells really good, but fill them all with the fart juice. So when they spray it on, it's very surprising.
Yep. I love it. I think that she already like vindicated herself, and I think that she filed for a divorce. The prenup actually worked in her favor because
she's not going to get her money back. That's the hard part.
No, she paid it. She learned a lesson, and she learned a lesson, and it cost her a lot. But she did something at the end she was humiliated for years and did something to preserve her dignity. And I feel like, bravo. If you hadn't done this, I think that you would have looked back and wished that you had done something to stand up for yourself. And now you've done that, and now you're ending this relationship. No. You matched energy, and I mean, barely. Their energy was so much worse, but you can't treat people the way that they did and not expect a human to retaliate. Because at some point, we snap, and at some point, we've had enough, and at some point, we will stand up for ourselves, and she did it, and I'm so proud of her.
Sergeant Max says she should have gotten mother-in-law a breast pump, then she could keep feeding her precious son.
Oh, man, no.
Hey there, it's Dusty with another Reddit story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut because I don't want to be a groomsman? So it goes like this. My sister is getting married in 5 months. Her fiance doesn't have enough friends to fill out his groom's party. Instead of approaching me directly, he just showed up by my house a couple of times that I wasn't available. My dad told me on accident that the reason is he wants me to be one of his groomsmen. This kind of pissed me off because he could have called me, texted me, something to let me know he was stopping by. I hate when people show up unannounced. I work at night and sleep in the day. Not only that, but they've been dating for like 2 or 3 years and I barely know the guy. He hasn't really done anything to try to build a friendship with me. He sits at home and plays RuneScape all the time. Isn't his groom party supposed to be the man in his life that he can depend on to back him up during his marriage? Is it not a massive red flag that he doesn't have any effing friends and is a total social loser? Why should I have to plug in because he can't get off the computer and go make some? Don't get me wrong, he's done a lot of good for my sister and he's good with things like using tools, but am I wrong in that if he wants me to be one of his groomsmen, that the reason should be because we have a bond, not just because he doesn't have enough friends to fill the spot? Should it not be a big red flag to everyone that this guy doesn't have friends? I'd rather not have more responsibilities during this familial obligation. She already wanted me to take photos. How am I supposed to do that if I'm part of the party? She is my older sister, but her fiance is younger than I am. Maybe I should be the one to initiate some time for us to hang out. But to be honest, I don't care. I'm single, have my own busy life, and I feel like if the guy wants me to be close to him, he needs to man up and reach out to me. Tonight, I get a text message that says to give him a call when I can. I barely know this guy. I really don't want to do it, but I also want my sister to be happy. My family all know I'm outspoken and opinionated. I'm not a fan, and his approach to asking me is just making it worse. Okay, this is heading to ESH land for me, because yeah, I mean he's just wanting to fill a spot, but he's probably also looking at this as an honor. And I think to most people who are part of the bridal party, it's supposed to be it's an honor for them to be a part of it, right? It is something that they look forward to, something that they feel good about being asked to do. You don't want to do it, and that's okay. I think you can politely decline. I don't think you have to dig into his person and be like, it's a red flag that he's asking me because that means he doesn't have any friends at all. If he's a gamer especially, he could have a lot of friends that are online that he doesn't physically see. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you have to attack his person, his character, because he's asking you. That just it's a leap to make all the claims that you've made here, OP, just because he's asking you. And also, like, so what if he doesn't have a lot of friends? I don't know. Does that matter? It's her brother. He should be in the bridal party if he's close with his sister. But he's already taking pictures, so he's already doing that. Now his approach here is very abrasive. He's got an abrasive personality, and we can get that just from the writing, right? And this is who he is as a person, and his family knows this. So, okay, he's going to say what he says. I don't think he should be attacking his sister's fiance's character because of this. He also sounds like a creature of habit, right? He's probably neurospicy, and this throws him off of routine, and that just makes things worse here too. So there could be a lot of that involved here too. All right, let's dive into the mini update. Okay, am I AITA? Maybe I am the asshole. I'm like, do you drive a Mazda Miata? What? Spoke to my sister. He doesn't have any friends, and this is her idea. I don't have to take a lot of photos because they have someone doing basic photos included. I'll do it, but I'm not going to invite him out to get a drink or something. Oh, no, I'm going to. I'll do it, but I'm going to invite him out to get a drink or something first so that a bachelor's party isn't the first time hanging out. Okay, so OP is like, fine, I'll do it. We got to at least have a drink first. Okay. He doesn't have any friends, and that's okay. I don't know, but he's got other people in his he's got other groomsmen already, so he didn't have enough people to fill it out. And I get it. That can be, that's probably a stressful, embarrassing thing for him to be like, I got nobody. Like, I got you. So he's filling people in. And he probably doesn't give a shit about having groomsmen either, but I'm sure they want it to balance out the photos and all of that kind of stuff. So good on you for going through with it, OP, and being like, fine. And since you don't have to take as many photos here, that does free you up to do it. The approach of OP's sister's fiance is awkward, right? Like just showing up, even knowing what he knows about OP, it is awkward. Now you've got somebody who's socially awkward trying to make friends with somebody who's abrasive and neurospicy. So That's going to be a fun scene when they go have a drink. I don't know where this puts me, though. Like, are we at an NTA? Now, the question was, am I the astronaut because I don't want to be a groomsman? Well, that's a feeling, like not wanting to be. It's not like you declined it. The way that fiance approached this wasn't the best way either. So is it an ESH or is it an NTA? I truly don't know. I'm gonna go NTA here because it sounds like it was a misunderstanding. They got through it, and it's a big personality difference. I think the big personality difference here is the largest gap, right? That's the gap that they're trying to build a bridge over right now because you have these severe personality differences. That drink really is going to be interesting. I wish we had some kind of recap of that. Here's comment one backstory about why OP didn't care for fiance. He said a couple snappy things to my father and I where he had an attitude or acted like we weren't anyone. He moved into my sister's place, which she owns. When my dad visited for Thanksgiving, he said something to my dad that made him feel like he was giving my dad permission to stay the night. Again, dude is younger than I am. My dad told him off and stayed at my house and doesn't stay over there anymore. This is just one thing. We've been really kind to the guy. My dad and I both like him, but there seems to be stuff like this every time we interact. I asked to borrow a tool to work on my car, and he asked me to schedule a time to let him diagnose it. Although I know what I needed, I just didn't have the tool. It was annoying. There's been little things. Gonna repeat, I don't hate the guy. He's the best guy my sister has chosen so far. So far is funny. Everyone's mad because I call it like I see it, but I'm not going to sugarcoat certain character defects like being antisocial, LOL. There's a remedy. I think that a lot of readers were insulted because they're still figuring that one out. Yeah, abrasive personality.
Okay, there's not all of his comments.
He's a very abrasive, aggressive person. Also has the same knee-jerk reaction to character attack, right? But dad does too. So if he moved in with sister, they're sharing the cost of living, and he lives there too. She may own the place, but if they're living there together and sharing expenses, it's his place too. But boy, dad couldn't handle that. So dad is part of the issue here too. Comment 2. Maybe I should put this out there since you're the most reasonable response I've gotten. I grew up playing RuneScape. I still love gaming. Although I gave it up for like a decade so I could get my adult life together. Probably one of the dumbest decisions I've ever made. I'm also good with my hands. I love repairing things and building things. So does he. I'm a jack of all trades, and so is he. He likes anime. So do I. I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm only extroverted because I have to be to live my life. I'm only extroverted because I'm a man, and introverted men have no resources, aka bad providers, fathers, husbands. Yeah, that is an interesting take. I don't agree. It is not that he is missing traits of what I deem acceptable or cool. It's that I'm being asked to step in as though we are great friends when he hasn't put any effort in to know me. When I have put an effort in, it's been greeted with him being weird or acting like a jerk. He likes to act like he's that MFer to both my dad and myself. We are them MFers. I guess I'm missing elaboration on how he has been rude, but it's been enough that I'm not kissing any feet. My gripe is that now they want me to be in the wedding, but I don't know this guy, and he hasn't tried to get to know me. It's not that I don't like him or that I don't approve of the wedding. It literally comes down to that simple fact. I would be there in the audience congratulating them like everybody else if I just had a simple invitation. Don't know why they had to make it complicated. Opie, I think you might be making it way more complicated than it actually is, and now we know that because sister was just trying to fill in because he doesn't have any physical friends here to be able to do that. Also, somebody asking you to be a part of their wedding can either be a really big honor and be really sentimental, or it can just be a chore. It's not that deep. It's just like fill the spot, look good in the suit, just that. It's not, in this case, it's not that deep. As he is a person, still with the character attacking, and then to be able to say he acts like he's that MFer. My dad and I are them MFers. I'm like, okay, sound like a real douchebag, OP, and gives zero about how it affects other people. So have fun with that. Good luck. Hey there, it's Dusty once again with another story for you. This is Am I the Astronaut for postponing my mother's son trip to support my wife? I promised my mother, 64 female, that I, 29 male, would go with her to Tanzania. She's always wanted to go and talked about it for years, but since she divorced my dad over a decade ago, hasn't had anyone to go with. My wife, 27 female, pointed out that once we have children, the chances of my going on a 3-week vacation alone will be pretty low, and by the time our children grow up, my mother might be too old to travel long distances. So I told my mom I wanted to go with her. She cried she was so happy. The trip was booked for March. My wife has been nothing but supportive. Unfortunately, my wife and I have struggled to conceive. We have been trying for 2 years and moved to a different country recently away from my mother. I assured my mother the trip was still going ahead. My wife and I recently had our first round of IVF and it failed. The doctors had been confident because my wife is still young, but it didn't. My wife and I took this news hard, especially my wife. I won't go into the details, but despite only being 27, my wife has some significant fertility issues. We found out that we're probably never going to have a child, even with IVF. My wife's mental health, even after the IVF failure, declined, and what made matters worse is the day we found out it failed, I had to go on a 2-week business trip. My wife was left on her own in a new foreign country with no family or friends, starting a new job, grappling with this awful news on her own. That is awful. Awful. My wife lost weight and is now under supervision by a psychiatrist and psychologist and medicated daily. When I came home, I saw my wife was skeletally thin and struggling to get out of bed every day. Leaving her on her own is not an option for the foreseeable. I called my mother and explained the situation. I told her I wanted to delay our trip by 10 weeks so that my wife could finish her treatment and come with us. It was a win-win. My mother gets her trip, I'm still a good son, but most importantly, I don't abandon my wife. Of course, I offered to pay for all additional costs, including new flights, so my mother wasn't out of pocket. My mother was initially supportive. She said she understood and thought the compromise was sensible. She even offered to come see us in our new country in March to give us support. A week later, my mother called me and said she's disappointed about the trip being postponed and that we had let her down. She said, with my wife coming, that the trip would be different than what she expected. She said she can't handle the thought of it potentially being postponed again, we never said it would be, and no longer wanted to go on the trip at all. She said she never wanted to speak about the trip either. She canceled the flights and asked my wife and I to refund her for everything, which we did. Once we paid her back, she stopped answering my texts. She hasn't once reached out to my wife, who she's known for 10 plus years and knew how much our children mean to her, about the IVF, the trip, nothing, or me. Am I the astronaut?
Who did the mom talk to?
Important comment by OP. The order of the events was I suggested the 10-week delay, and including my wife, Mom agreed. We had a call a few days later. Mom said, let's push it for 1 year without daughter-in-law. I agreed. 1 week passes. Mom says she would rather just cancel the trip and shut down. Sorry, drafting this within the character count was a challenge. Okay, yeah, she talked to somebody. She found somebody else to go with. OP? That's where I'm at. She found somebody else to go with. She's not answering. She's just ghosting you now. And yes, she might actually be butthurt by this, which says a ton about her character here. She does not care about you or your wife. That's what you can get from this. Your wife taking this hard and going through this, you are right there with her. And the fact that as soon as you got this news, you were gone for 2 weeks and she was left on her own, completely isolated. And your mom doesn't address that at all. She's just like, oh, I guess it makes sense to wait a little bit. And then comes back and reneges on that. Like, no, okay. Mama's only worried about mama here. And I think she found somebody else to go with. That's why she wanted to cancel it. Because she wasn't going with you anymore. She was going with somebody else. Or maybe solo. I don't know. But I think she found somebody else to go with. NTA for OP and his wife, AskCon 1 for mother-in-law. I mean, we don't know for sure what she's doing, but her reaction here was not okay. Grid of Cobra, I was about to say there weren't any astronauts here, just an unfortunate situation. And then the mom opened her dang mouth. Okay, mama, there are a couple of signals here that make it just shady AF. One is the change of tone, right? She was understanding about it and then all of a sudden wasn't. 2 is her lack of empathy for anything involving your wife's situation and your situation here with the failed IVF and hearing the news that you'll never be able to have kids. Like, that's a huge life and world changing thing to find out. And she is only worried about her trip. Accepted the compromise. But there's no compromise. What a decent human being would have done right then would have been like, okay, like the trip isn't a thing. Like, let's just focus up on you. I'll be there tomorrow. Like, we're going to get you guys back to healthy status. That's what she would have done if she gave any shits. Instead, she acted completely self-centered and then just ended up ghosting you. Yeah, she's going on the trip. Either she found one of her bridge gals to go with her, or yeah, she's taking Cabana Boy or something. I don't know, but she's going without you. Or is she trying to oust the wife because no grandkids? Maybe the whole no grandkid thing just made her so sour that she's just done. But cutting off her own child, cutting off contact with her own child there too, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So the question was, am I the astronaut for postponing my mother-son trip to support my wife? No, of course not. You are not the astronaut for that. If we knew what was really going on with your mom, we could probably assign her an ASCON rating here. I think at minimum, she's at 2. She definitely should not have done what she did. Very, very likely that it's a 1. We would just need a little bit more information to confirm that. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another story for you. This one is a Best of Redditor update, and you know what that means. Settle in. Might want to save this story for when you're on the pooper. Title of this one, Am I the Astronaut for grounding my daughter and canceling her senior trip after I found out she was cheating on her boyfriend? I have 2 daughters, Lizzie, 17 female, and Mackenzie, 14 female. Their dad and I divorced a few years ago after I discovered he was having an affair. Starting to make sense now. I have the kids most of the time, and their dad has them every weekend and during the summers. Lizzie has been dating Jacob, 18 male, for over a year now. Jacob is constantly at our house. He's a sweet, good young man, and I believe he'll be valedictorian of their class. However, a few weeks ago, I overheard Lizzie on the phone with a guy clearly flirting. At first, I thought it was Jacob, but then I heard her say Brandon. I realized she was talking to someone else. Then a week later, she mentioned to me that she was heading out to hang with a friend. And when I looked out the window, I saw her getting into a car and greet a guy with a kiss. It was not Jacob. Even after that, Jacob continued to come over, hanging out with Lizzie. He and Lizzie still acted like a couple, holding hands, laughing, and spending time together, just like they always had. I felt disgusted knowing my daughter was being a 2-timer. After Jacob left that day, I confronted my daughter. I asked her point blank, "Are you cheating on your boyfriend with another guy?" She said it was none of my business and that her personal life was hers only. I told her she was wrong and that I raised her better than to treat people like this. She told me she was bored with Jacob and that Brandon was more her type now. I told her that if she wasn't happy, she should just break up with Jacob. She said she didn't know if she wanted to be with Brandon or if she was just having fun flirting and teasing. I told her cheating was unacceptable and wrong, and as a consequence, I grounded her. I also told her she wasn't allowed to go on her senior trip with her friends. She obviously did not take that too well and has been at her dad's place for the last couple of days. My ex-husband called me saying that I was being unreasonable by not letting her go on the trip and that she and Jacob were just a high school thing. He then told me that I needed to put my bitterness aside and stop punishing his daughter. I told him I was teaching our daughter right from wrong and that actions have consequences. Let's go ahead and dive into some relevant comments here. Relevant comment 1. Is your daughter aware of the reason for the divorce? OP, yes. 2. I'd recommend explaining that since cheating broke the family, you won't, under any circumstance, tolerate her cheating on her boyfriend and emphasize the strain it puts on your relationship with her. Explain the pain that you felt after finding out about the ex-husband's affair and how her boyfriend deserves none of that just because she feels bored. You could also say that she's entitled to her own decisions, but her cheating severely disappoints and hurts you. Of course, you know your feelings better, but I tried to give you a rough framework for letting her know the actual weight of her actions, heartbreak for boyfriend, and a major problem in her relationship with her mother. Make her think about whether the momentary excitement is really worth the cost. This should work better than punishment, at least in the long run. 3. Her wording was interesting. I almost feel like she asked her dad why he cheated on her mom, and that was his response. My nephew did something similar after his parents divorced, and it was like he opened his mouth and his father fell out. 4. She will probably learn to be better at cheating. What you're doing is not wrong, but I don't think it will work. 5. I'm probably older than you. Here's where I'm at. Cheating is a selfish, thoughtless thing to do to someone you ostensibly care about. However, dating is a personal journey, and your daughter is in high school. I think discussion about her bad behavior is fine, maybe asking her how she'd feel if Jacob was seeing some other girl on the side, perhaps even thinking about telling Jacob the truth next time he comes by. However, her bad behavior with a boy is not something to be grounded over. You're taking out your hurt and anger at your ex on her. That's not fair or good parenting. She's too old for that BS. If she was texting and driving, you would take her car keys because of safety. Staying out past curfew gets a phone taken. Being a bad girlfriend isn't a safety issue. And if you failed as a parent and she doesn't get it that cheating is bad, grounding her isn't going to teach her a lesson except that you overreact and have anger management issues. Teens do stupid, selfish things. It's part of being hormonal and a young adult. Most will grow up and grow out of such behaviors, and 5 or 10 years down the line, she might be very well ashamed of it. 6. NTA. Your post sounds like Lizzie's a daddy's girl, and he's been greenlighting her behavior. OP's response to that one: he's definitely the fun parent. Dad gives them money and takes them on trips while I do the actual parenting. My youngest needed a physical exam for soccer tryouts, and he couldn't even be bothered to do that. 7. Maybe it's time for Dad to take Lizzie most of the time, and you enjoy her presence during the weekend and summers. I'd hate for her to influence the youngest to behave in such unscrupulous ways. Good luck, OP. You're a great mom. Maybe even consider telling Jacob or his parent about Lizzie's actions. When I got cheated on, I wish someone had told me sooner. There is an update. Before we get into that, thoughts so far? You can't pull from your own cheating to give advice here, unless she's just reflecting on the way that, like, the pain it can cause, the hurt it can cause. But again, you've got teenagers dating. That is there's teenagers dating, and then there's married people getting cheated on. Two very different things. And yes, mom obviously has strong feelings about that, which led her to respond the way that she did. Having the conversation was good. I'm glad you had the conversation. She had the conversation with her and said that, hey, this is not okay. You should just break up with him. It's not an okay thing to do. I think all you can do is coach them through that, though. Like, was punishing her, canceling her senior trip, and grounding her, was that the right thing to do? I do not feel like it was. See, I don't feel like telling Jacob is the right thing to do either. I don't feel like meddling and intervening as an adult in a relationship with kids involved is right. All right, we'll dive into the update. Let's dive in. 6 days later, I received a lot of good advice from my original post and wanted to provide an update. My daughter has been at her dad's house since my last post. I called her saying I'm reconsidering canceling her senior trip, but she needs to tell me what's going on with this new guy, Brandon. She reiterated that it's not serious and she's just having fun. I told her she needs to decide which guy she actually wants to be with. She said she doesn't want Brandon, but he's fun, and Jacob can be too serious and controlling. She likes how chill Brandon is. She kept saying she doesn't understand why I care so much, that I'm supposed to be on her side, and that I'm acting like Jacob is my child and not her. I told her that wasn't the issue. The issue is that cheating is wrong and she's hurting Jacob, who she claims to love. She says she's not hurting him because he doesn't know about Brandon. I told her she's going to have to tell him, and only then will she be allowed to go on her senior trip. She said that she couldn't do that. She still wants Jacob, but he could be annoying sometimes, and she needs a change of pace. I told her it was wrong to use both of these guys. I asked her if Brandon goes to the same school, and she said no, that he isn't in school at all. I tried pressing her on how old Brandon is, but she wouldn't give me a clear answer. She just kept saying, not that much older, but not in school. After the call, I contacted my ex-husband to express our concerns about this new guy and how secretive our daughter is being about him. He told me I need to stop being a helicopter parent and let our daughter make her own mistakes and decisions about her love lives, plural. I told him we don't know anything about this Brandon guy and how he cannot be concerned about him. He said he trusts our daughter and that she is nearly an adult and that I'm just being controlling and projecting my issues onto her. I told him with how little we know about this Brandon and her not willing to at least break up with Jacob, there's no way she's going on the senior trip. My ex-husband got upset, saying that I cannot make these decisions on my own and that she is his daughter too. He then told me he'll be paying for the full senior trip and that I need to back off if I want our daughter to ever come back home. Well, they're definitely on opposite sides of this issue. Relevant comments. 1, I think your mistake is how you're speaking to your daughter about this in terms of how it's bad for Jacob. That's why she thinks you're acting like Jacob is your child and you're not on her side. Well, yeah, because mom's relating to Jacob in this scenario. You need to explain to her how your concern is about what this behavior is doing to her and your concerns about how she is going to get hurt when this blows up in her face. 2, this. She's also hurting herself. Doing the wrong thing becomes easier the more you do it. You corrupt yourself. 3, your daughter learned from your ex that cheating is not a big deal, and many people commenting on your post seem to think it's not your responsibility to teach your daughter right from wrong. I don't know if canceling the senior trip is the right move, but I do know that your daughter doesn't deserve to have a partner if this is how she treats them. 4, let her live with her father. Let him deal with her sneaking around with an unknown man and the consequences that can happen from it. There's the end of it. There's the end. So I would say in my position as a parent, if our daughter was doing this, I'd be like, okay, well, you're going to at least have to give me details on this new guy, because if you're going to live here, I need to know if you're out there running around with some 30-year-old dude, right? It's like in Schitt's Creek, whenever Alexis and Ted break up and her rebound guy is Artie, I would want to know. I would want to know because I'm concerned for her safety. I would want to have some kind of reassurance that she's at least being smart and not just being completely careless. But I don't think it's my position as a parent to be like, you need to break up with this person. I don't know. You do have to let your kids fail on their own. That's the only way that they're going to learn. Here's where I'm going. Everybody sucks. Everybody sucks. Everybody sucks here. It's an ESH. Hey, Dusty Thunder here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that content, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Also, you can find swag and so much more at dusty-thunder.com, and you'll find even more content on all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube. We now have an official Facebook page that we'll be posting stories to as well. We have podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and so much more. You can see all of our content platforms on Linktree, which is linked in my bio. Engage with us wherever you're enjoying content and do your best to avoid the Askonauts today. Thanks again.